Basel, Switzerland. 5 things to see and do. I arrived in Basel by way of a Viking Rhine getaway river cruise. It was the final destination on the cruise, and the boat had us disembarking early in the morning. Since I wanted to spend some time in Basel, I booked a hotel room in order to explore the city on my own. I took a short Uber ride to the hotel, dropped off my bags, and headed out as soon as possible in order to take in as much as I could in my one day in Basel. My new rule for exploring a city when I only have one day is to focus on 5 things to see. I researched Basel highlights and mapped out a route, knowing that I would invariably see other interesting things along the way. I'll share these 5 places with you in the order I explored, and at the end of the video I'll share a few things you should know about traveling in Basel. My first destination was the Tinguely Fountain. Jean Tinguely was a Swiss sculptor best known for his kinetic art sculptural machines, known as metamatics. Tinguely's art satirized automation and the technological overproduction of material goods. I remember studying him in my college art history classes, and I was fascinated by his conceptual art. There's a Tinguely Museum in town, but with limited time, I chose to just visit the fountain. Unfortunately, when I arrived, the fountain was under maintenance. However, I caught it on my way back and was able to see it in operation. It did seem to me that it might work a little bit better with more water in the pond, but it was still an interesting contraption. Next, I headed to Basel Minster, which is a magnificent Gothic cathedral originally constructed between 1019 and 1500. It is one of the city's most iconic landmarks. I approached the cathedral from its front, but there were midway-type rides being assembled in the plaza immediately in front and to the side. I discovered later that this plaza is known as the Marktplatz Basel and is an historic square for cultural activities. The only door I saw open at the cathedral was to the cloister that extended from the side. It was quite beautiful. There was an enclosed green area surrounded by these arched hallways with historical plaques lining the walls. I walked around the entire building but found no entrance, I assume because of the festival surrounding it. I didn't mind just exploring the outside though. The cathedral's Gothic architecture features twin towers and a striking red sandstone facade. I love these arched wings along the base. As I walked around the building, I discovered a plaza that hung out over the Rhine with some awesome views of the river, bridges, and cityscape. From this vantage point, I could see my next destination, the Mittlere Brucke, one of the oldest and most significant bridges in Basel. It was originally constructed in 1226 and was one of the first bridges over the Rhine River. It played a crucial role in trade and transportation, connecting different parts of the city and facilitating commerce. It was an easy walk down a beautiful cobblestone street to reach the bridge. The bridge has evidently been reconstructed several times. It features a combination of modern and historical architectural elements, reflecting its long history. I decided to walk across the bridge on one side and return on the other. I had endured many overcast skies for the past 10 days, so was happy that the sun was shining beautifully. From the bridge you could see other bridges spanning the Rhine and the attractive buildings lining the shore, including the Basel Minster. At the center of the bridge stands this mini chapel, which I'll let you try to pronounce. I didn't know what it was and only later learned that it is a small medieval chapel. It is so tiny I just passed it by. On the other side of the bridge are some outdoor cafes lining the water and a very pretty hotel. I crossed the street and then headed back across the bridge, this time taking in views from the other side, which also included more bridges and beautiful buildings along the Rhine. My fourth destination was Altstadt, the Old Town of Basel. I realized I had already walked through part of it on my way to the cathedral and bridge, which are part of the Old Town. The area is known for its charming medieval architecture and narrow cobblestone streets. One of the most picturesque buildings is the Basel Town Hall, which sits adjacent to the Marktplatz. I'm not sure if this is a daily occurrence, but there was a market set up in the Marktplatz. The town hall is this wonderfully colorful building with intricate details, including these paintings and an ornate clock. I wandered through the area a bit, taking in some of the historic architecture, then headed toward my last destination, a botanical garden. It was a bit of a long hike uphill, but I passed some fine-looking buildings along the way. When I entered this botanical garden, I knew immediately that it was not going to be a manicured garden, but more wild and lush. I first stepped into a greenhouse near the entrance and had my glasses fog up immediately. There was a loop around the greenhouse with plants tangling up the sides and a big pond in the middle. I didn't stay long because it was so hot and humid. I read that this garden is part of the University of Basel and serves as both a research and educational facility, as well as a public garden where visitors can explore a wide variety of plant species. It did appear to be more like a research lab than an aesthetically pleasing garden. There were rock gardens with plants all labeled, including cacti. There was another greenhouse towards the back that was a bit more tame, some petrified wood, I think, and this cool little shed that had various kinds of mosses. This is definitely a great place to visit if you are a flora and fauna buff. So those were my 5 destinations, which took me quite a distance around the town, so I was able to see much of the historic town center. A couple things to note if you are planning a trip. When you book a hotel in Basel, they give you a free public transport card that you can use during your stay. A nice little perk. Also, there are crosswalks around the city, but everyone seems to jaywalk, and I found myself at some intersections having to cross with no lights and having to navigate trams, bikes, and cars. I ate at a couple places and people were very friendly and helpful. For senior and solo travelers, I found the city to be safe and fairly easy to navigate, with the exception of crossing some of the intersections. The city has some hills, and the cobblestone streets are sometimes uneven. However, it didn't feel overly demanding to me. As always, if you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments section, and check out the Senior Solo Travel website and travel Facebook forum where you can interact with other travelers. I have left links in the description below. And if you'd like to follow my senior and solo travel journeys, please like and subscribe. Cheers!